In my last video, I wanted to know why more people aren't anarchists. If you're not an anarchist, why not? Are you sure you understand the philosophy behind it and what we do? Check that one out. Today I want to explore what the world might look like if there were more anarchists, numerous and active enough to be able to follow anarchism to its logical conclusions. Because it's one thing to want to fight for freedom, but what's the long-term plan? The short answer to that question would be a world without institutionalized oppression. No governments, police, prisons, slavery, war, racism, borders, or any other institution that divides us and enforces a social hierarchy. It's hard to say just what such a world would be like, especially since it's not just around the corner, but needs to be brought into being over time. And because everyone's vision is going to be a little different. But we might have some idea what that world would look like if we look at what anarchists do now. The unity of ends and means is essential, so not just our long-term vision, but our daily activities need to flatten hierarchies of class, race, and gender. They should foster communities and other associations built on mutual respect. They need to empower people to solve their problems and liberate themselves together. Because anarchism isn't just about trying to build the distant future where everyone is born and dies free. It's also about liberation here and now. A common misapprehension is anarchists want to immediately overthrow the state and leave everyone to it. Actually, we recognize it takes a long period of educating, organizing, and ultimately transforming social relations to completely displace the top-down authoritarian institutions most people take for granted. But let's take another step back. Have you freed your mind yet? Freeing your mind involves recognizing the systems and ideologies that oppress people for what they are. Seeing your place in the system, where your beliefs come from, whose land you live on and why, whose labor you benefit from and why. It means learning to respect others and their experiences enough to listen to and learn from them. I don't know about your experience, of course, but for a white guy like me, these steps are integral to understanding oppression. I ask if you've freed your mind yet, partly in jest, because unlearning the attitudes this system instills in us is a process that's never complete. One result of this learning and unlearning should be solidarity with the most oppressed people. In practice, that includes stopping genocide, working with indigenous people toward the decolonization of stolen land, supporting women in the fight for control of their own bodies, and protecting migrants from the border Gestapo. Once we have some understanding of oppression, we can attack its sources. I've made a couple of videos that I link to in the description that expand on ways to organize. As I've tried to emphasize, we need to work together to get anything done that's worth doing. Have you read Pedagogy of the Oppressed? Try reading it in a reading group and putting it into practice together. To sum up the book, in groups you learn about and identify the roots of your problems and discuss and implement strategies for solving them. In the process, you empower yourself and the people around you to get things done without relying on authority. You learn to relate to each other and work together as equals. You become the foundation of the stateless society. Any steps toward freedom for the most vulnerable might be worth taking. What could you do to free people? Have you tried de-arresting them? You know, when someone's being arrested, you interrupt the arrest and everyone gets free. But not everyone can do that, so you might protest their arrest and trial, petition to let them out and expunge their record, or break them out of prison. I bet with a couple of hundred people and the right tools, you could shut down almost any prison. Sometimes the prisoners themselves do that, and you can support them from the outside. You could prevent a lot of state violence by working toward abolishing police and prisons. There are a couple of books on this in the description. In their place, locals can coordinate to take care of each other and protect each other from whatever the threats are there. That might mean building homes for people, setting up shelters for people who need to run away from abusive homes, or places to treat addiction and mental illness, and teaching community defense. For serious violations and harm, there is transformative justice. From a zine I link to in the description, according to Generation 5, an organization that grounds their work to end child sexual abuse in this model, the goals of transformative justice are safety, healing, and agency for survivors, accountability and transformation for people who harm, community action, healing, and accountability, transformation of the social conditions that perpetuate violence, systems of oppression and exploitation, domination, and state violence. The anarchist practice of community accountability rests in theory on these underlying principles, along with the DIY ethic and a focus on direct action. It's an evolving framework being employed to resolve conflicts in communities and radical organizations. This is anarchy, and you can too! You could also start a commune, which doesn't have to be out in the woods, but anywhere people want to live together. If you share your resources and make decisions on an equal footing, you're preparing for the egalitarian society and proving it can work. I recommend having a clear set of rules, including for communication, that everyone agrees to and holds each other to. You could even secede from the nation-state altogether and carve out a rebel territory. I've got links to stuff about that too. If we're organized enough, any of these things are options. Through these various acts of empowerment and liberation, along with a lot of well-placed disruption, we build the free world of the future. Each act that weakens authoritarian institutions and strengthens the power of ordinary people over their own lives is a win we can build more wins on. Imagine small, untraceable groups everywhere interrupting stock markets and shareholder meetings. Imagine them raiding and occupying offices belonging to big corporations. Commerce would become more expensive, maybe prohibitively so, slowing down or stopping the accumulation of wealth and weakening the power of the rich. The same groups can do other things, as long as they don't get caught for doing the previous things. Anarchist affinity groups publish books, distribute newsletters, and start reading circles to educate themselves and others. They create spaces where people can learn, teach, organize, eat, sleep, or just hang out without feeling obliged to spend money. They set up emergency crisis numbers people can call instead of resorting to police. They plant community gardens, maybe guerrilla gardens. Some groups identify and deal with white supremacists in their own communities. Others set up mutual aid arrangements to feed, house, and empower the people at greatest risk of violence and poverty. But operations like these don't fall out of the sky and into place. They take planning and coordination. In this process, we learn to organize horizontally, without hierarchy, without the go-ahead from our leaders in another place. Just because someone else isn't making the rules doesn't mean there are no rules. How would no rules even work? When you join an organization, you commit to following its rules. But if it values you as an equal member, you also get the chance to alter the rules if other members agree. If you don't like that organization or its rules, you can start your own. In this video, I suggest that in the present world of extreme state control, the ideal unit of resistance is the affinity group, with, let's say, 2 to 20 people, as they can operate under the radar. They don't have to be that small, and they don't have to be secret. It depends what they do. Some leftists suggest the trade union is still more important because we still need to seize the means of production at some point. I don't know if there's a lot of hope in unions in the 21st century, but if there is, great. Radicalize your fellow members and work towards taking over your workplace. But if that doesn't go anywhere, join or create an affinity group, and you can do whatever you want. There's no way to know how many anarchically inclined affinity groups there are around the world, but it's common for them to forge links with others in different places. What if there were more groups and more communication among them? What if we did more to share ideas and learn from each other? Could we even coordinate actions? Why not? We would have more effect on the wider culture as we demonstrated the whys and hows of the free society. If awareness, organization, and anger reach a tipping point, we can overthrow the institutions of rule, take back the land, the technology, and everything else the state and the capitalist class have stolen, and make its product accessible to all. At this point, many people believe there would be chaos, or even that taking back the commons and the means of production is chaos. If there weren't a central authority laying down the law, people would run around killing each other. That's what the TV says anyway. But why? Bringing down all the oppressive institutions of society requires a huge amount of awareness, cooperation, and strategy, which would necessarily include conflict resolution and dealing with reactionary and violent behavior. For chaos suddenly to erupt following the collapse of the state, the high level of organization we would have to have achieved before this uprising would need to disappear after it. What would actually happen when you depose the ruling class is the millions or billions of people who had been learning how to organize as free people would continue to do so. A revolutionary population would be vigilant about preventing anyone from re-establishing a hierarchy and destroying the freedom they had attained. If there are people running around killing, and hey, there might be at first, people would work through the non-hierarchical institutions they had been developing to stop them. Over time, these institutions evolve to respond to problems that arise. Free people can shape their own institutions as they see fit. They can belong to any association or community they want. People might move around a lot more than they do today, since there would be no borders, although at least they would no longer be forced to move due to war, discrimination, or gentrification. It's hard to predict all the problems that will need solving in the future, but we know for a fact when they're not coerced and divided, people organize to help each other. I can predict a free society would have organizations for building homes, distributing food, restoring nature, caring for the sick and whoever else needs it, because we have those now. It's just that there would be no corporations, no landlords, and no police with the legal authority to act on behalf of corporations and landlords to stop us from building homes for everyone, having enough food for everyone, creating spaces that no one has to pay for. And there would be trains. Hang on. Just got a text. It's from Anarchist HQ. It says, "No trains allowed?" What the hell, man? In the comments of my last video, someone kept saying you couldn't possibly have trains in an anarchist society. At first, I didn't understand. Didn't anarchists coordinate transportation in Spain during its civil war? Is there something about trains anarchists just can't figure out? But then I realized the commenter was alluding to Engels, who said pretty much that. He wrote a pamphlet in 1872 he thought would destroy anarchism, On Authority. With it, he started the leftist tradition of misunderstanding anarchism. The problem with On Authority is it conflates expertise with authoritarianism. It claims anarchists claim being free from the rule of authority would mean there were no more experts, so nothing worthwhile would get done. But I've never really understood this argument. People would learn and apply their learning and pass on their learning like they always have. If we need insulin, for example, and we do, the people who know how to make it can make it, and the rest of us can support them. We'll make their food, build their houses, and take care of them when they're sick. Like a society. Experts are needed, and sometimes their word is law, like on an airplane. Voluntarily getting on a plane and submitting to the will of the person flying the plane is not authoritarianism. Likewise, as someone living on stolen land, if I'm supporting the land back movement, I should defer to the people whose land I'm on. But not all organization requires hierarchy, and when it does, it's temporary and revocable. It begs the question to say you need some permanent authority giving out orders that can't be questioned. Trains can run in a stateless society because people and computers can run them and coordinate their movements. Don't they already? Or is there a single, really competent train commissar telling all the trains where to go and when? Even if everyone's needs were met, there would still be a variety of problems that needed solving, and without a state in the way, people could actually solve them. Many issues can just be resolved among the small number of people involved. Some might require the whole city to be involved, while others need a more global response. I think most anarchists are in favor of not just local but wide-scale organization and governance. Depending who you ask, they might like the idea of individual, instantly recallable delegates to some kind of decision-making conference. The delegates do no more than what the people they're representing want. Although nowadays we might not need delegates because we could do it online in real time. So if someone proposes practical measures to reduce carbon emissions, we can implement them anywhere in the world the people are willing. Some people are certain none of this is possible. We'll never have anarchy. We'll never have enough people on board. We'll never eliminate the violent assertion of force to subdue and enslave people. I disagree, because these things are not inevitable, and because I've seen people organize without hierarchy, solve their problems together, and in some places spread this model to all aspects of society. But even if they're right and I'm wrong, you can still join anarchists in creating free spaces and minds and bodies in the present. Maybe we'll never be completely free, but why not try our best with what we've got? Whatever freedom means now and in the future, anarchism is not about reaching some end point where everyone is perfectly free, because that's probably impossible. What if we abolish the state, end capitalism, and confine racism to the ashtray of history? What then? There will always be more mountains to climb. There will still be the need for anarchism, and anarchists will still be there, working for more freedom for everyone. There will always be better ways to take care of each other, settle disputes, and protect the environment. So we don't need to know what the future will bring. We don't have to follow a single plan. We help people get free however they can in the short term and work toward the liberation of everyone in the long term. With enough people, we might just succeed. See you at the barricade.